Picture this. You're standing in a dimly lit, rain-slicked alleyway.
Okay, setting the scene. I like it.
Right. So the neon signs from the street are like reflecting off the puddles. They're casting these long, harsh, completely fragmented shadows across the pavement.
Classic noir.
Exactly. You hear sirens wailing in the distance, and they are getting louder, just cutting right through that heavy, oppressive night air.
It's the absolute quintessential hard-boiled mystery setup.
It really is. I mean, you've got the sting of betrayal, you've got shadowy informants, and this whole syndicate operating just out of sight.
Yeah, pulling the strings of a deeply compromised, corrupt police force.
A scene straight out of a classic crime thriller, the kind of puzzle that demands you look over your shoulder before you even turn the page.
But we are dealing with a pretty massive, surreal twist in the source material today.
Oh, a massive twist. Because the criminal underworld we're about to investigate, the syndicate running these illicit operations,
Yeah,
it is entirely populated by anthropomorphic produce.
the visual shift is staggering, honestly.
Yeah, right. It's so weird.
We are trading the standard, gritty noir detective in a trench coat for a literal strawberry.
Yeah, strawberry.
And we are plunging her into an absolute nightmare of crime, institutional corruption, and psychological manipulation.
It's wild. We are operating within the framework of a narrative called Fruit Salad Adventures. Freshly squeezed secrets.
Specifically looking at the events of episode 4 today.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive is very specific. We are not just going to read through this excerpt like it's a casual piece of fiction.
No, absolutely not.
We are treating this source material as a literal active crime scene.
We're putting on our detective hats.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
We are going to map out the timeline meticulously, examine the physical evidence left behind, and really dissect the motives operating within this treacherous vegetable underworld.
Which is quite a sentence to say out loud.
I know, right? The vegetable underworld. But I want to orient you, the listener, right from the jump.
Yeah, you really have to put yourself in her shoes.
Imagine the sheer terror of trying to piece together a massive, sprawling conspiracy where you are simultaneously the lead investigator trying to find the truth.
And the primary suspect who was found right there at the scene of the raid.
Exactly. Plus, you're a victim whose memory of the night in question is completely fractured. Because, well, you were heavily drugged.
You are attempting to navigate a maze with a broken compass. It's disorienting.
It really is. So before we can even begin to look at the suspect list or the broader mechanics of this conspiracy, we have to establish the victim's state of mind.
We really do. We have to analyze the immediate aftermath of the raid on the Wacky Produce Club.
Just to understand how disorienting this mystery is from an investigative standpoint,
Right. Because the baseline facts of the crime scene are chaotic, to say the least.
Utter chaos.
We have a VIP party that functioned as a front. We have a massive police raid. We have multiple confirmed arrests on the scene.
Right, including figures identified as Pineapple Lusa and Mushroom Marv.
Right. But beneath the surface of that raid, we have a targeted drugging, a sexual assault, the capture of blackmail photography, and a protagonist who has been systematically compromised.
Completely compromised. I mean, the excerpt begins the morning after the raid, and Strawberryna isn't just waking up groggy.
No, it's way more intense than a hangover.
She describes answering her phone in an angry rage of an emotional implosion.
An emotional implosion. That's a heavy phrase.
It is. She screams at Potato Keisha over the phone. She literally yells, "What do you want? Why are you calling me, you psycho?"
Yeah, the all-caps screaming really sets the tone.
And then she slams the phone down and pulls the covers right over her head. She explicitly states she couldn't remember if she'd been dreaming or not until reality set in.
Which is crucial for us as investigators. We aren't just looking at someone with a headache. We are looking at a witness whose timeline is actively crumbling.
Yeah, so what's going on in her head there?
Well, we need to break down the physiological mechanics of what is happening in her brain in that exact moment. That angry rage of an emotional implosion, that is a massive spike in cortisol and adrenaline.
Oh, right.
And is fighting against the residual depressant effects of whatever sedative she was slipped at the club.
So her body is basically at war with itself.
Exactly. And when she pulls the covers over her head, that is not fatigue. That is sensory deprivation as a primal defense mechanism.
She's just trying to shut the world out.
Her amygdala is completely overwhelmed. Her brain is actively trying to reject the reality of the trauma she experienced at the Wacky Produce Club.
Which makes getting a clear statement from her almost impossible.
Right. When you are investigating a crime and taking a statement from someone in this acute stage of trauma, You must recognize that their memory encoding has been severely disrupted.
It's all just fragments.
The sequence of events will not be linear. The details will be incredibly fragmented.
Well, I look at the specific fragments she does. When the fog starts to lift, the first concrete image that snaps her back to reality is seeing Pineapple Lisa and Mushroom Marv up on the balcony in handcuffs.
Right, the arrests.
She's sitting there feeling utterly betrayed while the cops do their sweep. Pineapple Lisa and Mushroom Marv are taking the fall. The handcuffs are clicking shut on them.
And where are the actual orchestrators?
Exactly. The actual orchestrators of her assault, Potato, Keisha, and Tamarin, they are completely absent.
Let's view that balcony scene through a tactical lens, because that is not an accident.
You think it was planned?
The presence of Lisa and Marv in handcuffs is structural. Criminal syndicates do not just experience bad luck during a raid.
Right, they don't just get caught by mistake.
The individuals caught are often the individuals designed to be caught.
Whoa. So they were planted there.
We have to ask the mechanical question. Were Lisa and Marv the intended targets of this massive federal-level produce raid, or were they strategically positioned as decoys?
Oh, that makes so much sense.
When law enforcement breaches a building, their primary objective is to secure the immediate threats and process the visible suspects.
Right, they grab whoever's in front of them.
A chaotic scene with drugs, an illicit gathering, and multiple arrests creates a massive operational smokescreen.
It's a sacrificial play. The syndicate feeds Lisa, Marv, and Strawberryna to the precinct section of the grocery aisle so the real operators can walk out the back door.
Precisely.
It's like waking up in the middle of a bank heist movie, but you're just a customer who got shoved a bag of marked cash right as the SWAT team breached the doors.
That's a great analogy.
You're holding the bed, the alarms are blaring, you're the one in the crosshairs, and the real robbers are already 3 blocks away.
Leaving you to deal with the fallout.
But I struggle with Tamarin's specific behavior here. Strawberryna remembers that Tamarin purposely stood her up earlier in the evening.
Right, the fake out.
Yeah, only to show up at the VIP party specifically to laugh and gloat at how she and Keisha had set Strawberryna up.
It seems petty, doesn't it?
It seems like a massive, unnecessary risk. If you are running a covert criminal operation, why surface just to gloat?
This raises an important question about the psychology of these criminals.
Right. Why do it?
I'd argue that the gloating isn't a risk in their minds. It's the entire point of the exercise for someone like Tamarin.
You think she just enjoys it?
We have to separate the utilitarian function of the crime from the psychological payoff for the perpetrators.
Okay, so the utilitarian part is leaving Strawberryna behind.
Yes, leaving her behind serves the utilitarian purpose of providing the police with the stressed, drugged victim to process. It bogs down the investigation.
But the gloating.
That is pure dominance. Tamarin wanted Strawberryna to know exactly who orchestrated her destruction.
That is so twisted.
In the architecture of abuse, the perpetrator often needs the victim to be consciously aware of their helplessness. It cements the power dynamic.
They want the credit for the destruction, they really do. But the psychological warfare doesn't end when she escapes the club.
No, it ramps up the very next morning.
Strawberryna's internal confusion is abruptly interrupted by an external threat. Her head is pounding. She is trying to piece together the fragments of the night, and the phone rings again.
And it's Potato Keisha.
Right. We shift violently from analyzing the victim's fractured mind straight into deciphering the perpetrator's motives in real time.
And the audacity of this phone call cannot be overstated.
It's crazy.
Consider the environmental context. Keisha has just fled a massive produce raid. She narrowly escaped arrest.
She should be hiding.
By every logical metric of criminal survival, she should be off the grid, burning her phone, and laying low.
Instead, she dials the victim. She literally initiates contact.
It defies logic until you understand her goal.
And her tone is what makes it so chilling. Strawberryna is hissing into the receiver, terrified her neighbors will hear, reminding Keisha that she was literally in handcuffs hours ago.
She's panicking.
But Keisha's voice crackles through the speaker, completely devoid of panic, and she says, "Oh, sweetie, calm your seeds."
Calm your seeds. Wow.
It's infuriating. But it also reveals a deeply sinister strategy. Keisha claims that she and Tamarin slipping out the back of the club wasn't abandonment.
No, she frames it as a favor.
Exactly. She literally frames it as a rescue mission. She says, if I hadn't slipped out the back with Tamarin, who do you think was going to pay your bail if things went sideways?
We are witnessing the mechanics of gaslighting deployed as a containment protocol.
A containment protocol. I like that phrasing.
Keisha is attempting to rewrite the narrative of the trauma, while the victim's brain is still struggling to process the timeline.
Because Strawberina is still so confused.
Right. By framing her cowardly, calculated escape as a strategic move to act as a bailout fund, Keisha is trying to maintain absolute psychological control.
She wants to keep Strawberina on a leash.
She needs to keep Strawberina tethered to her. Perpetrators utilize this specific form of manipulation when they fear a victim might break rank and go to the authorities.
So it's basically damage control.
The goal is to establish a false sense of dependency. Keisha is essentially saying, the world is dangerous, the police are against you, and you need me on the outside to save you.
An isolation tactic masquerading as support.
Exactly.
But the tactic fails. Strawberina drops a massive wrench in Keisha's containment protocol.
She does. She pushes back.
She doesn't fold. She sits up in bed, pulls her strawberry print sheets up to her chin, and yells into the phone, "I told the police everything, Keisha. I told them you and Tamarin set me up."
Which is a huge moment.
Now, in a standard mystery narrative, this is the triumphant turning point. The victim breaks the silence, goes to the authorities, names the conspirators, and the net closes in on the bad guys.
Right. In a linear, functional justice system, that confession is the checkmate move.
Game over.
It provides law enforcement with the motive, the means, and the identities of the orchestrators. But Keisha's reaction is the fulcrum that turns this entire investigation upside down.
Because she doesn't freak out.
She doesn't hang up in a panic. She doesn't start making threats.
No, she laughs.
She lets out a cold, mocking laugh.
Yeah. And she diminishes Strawberina, calling her an innocent little fruit.
The condescension is palpable.
And then she delivers a directive that fundamentally alters our understanding of this vegetable underworld. She tells Strawberina to go look at the morning paper that just hit her doorstep.
The newspaper.
So Strawberina runs down to her front door, grabs the paper, bolts back inside, locks her door, and stares at the front page.
And that headline changes everything.
Completely shatters any illusion that the system is going to protect her. Here's where it gets really interesting. The text reads, "Informer, potato and sour pickle released after cooperating with authorities."
Cooperating with authorities.
Yeah. Below the headline is a mugshot of Potato Keisha, alongside a mugshot of the shady, aggressive guy who assaulted Strawberina at the club.
The guy she thought was a cucumber.
Exactly. This is the critical detail. The article doesn't identify him as a cucumber. It explicitly identifies him as a sour pickle.
We really need to unpack the biological and metaphorical mechanics of that identity shift, because it is highly significant.
A cucumber to a pickle. What does that mean in this world?
Well, a cucumber does not simply wake up as a pickle. It requires a deliberate transformative process.
Like fermentation.
Exactly. It requires time, it
Yeah.
requires immersion in a harsh brine, and it fundamentally alters the cellular composition of the produce.
So it's not a quick change.
Metaphorically, this tells us we aren't dealing with fresh, naive opportunists.
Oh, wow.
The Cucumber Man was an alias, a temporary disguise masking someone who's been soaking in the toxic, acidic environment of the criminal underworld for a very long time.
That is such a good point.
The Sour Pickle is a hardened, seasoned veteran of the system.
Man, I think we have to connect the sour pickle's entrenched criminal status to the headline itself.
The cooperation part.
Yeah, they were released after cooperating with authorities. Potato Keisha and the Sour Pickle are not just street-level scammers running a messy blackmail ring out of the wacky produce club.
No, they are protected assets.
They are informants. And that realization forces us to look at the assault itself in a completely different, much darker light.
It changes the entire motive.
Earlier in the source text, Strawberina notes that Keisha snapped a picture of the assault, a spicy photo.
Right.
In a standard extortion playbook, you assume that photo is for traditional blackmail. You hold it over the victim's head to extort money or, force them to facilitate further crimes.
But the revelation that they are informants dismantles that traditional extortion theory completely.
Because they don't need money.
If they are actively cooperating with the police, their primary currency is not money. Their primary currency is actionable intelligence and leverage.
Ah, leverage.
Consider the transactional economy of a corrupt law enforcement ecosystem. Criminals trade evidence of other crimes to secure their own immunity.
Exactly. Wait, no, let me push that further. It's not just that they traded evidence of a random crime.
What do you mean?
They manufactured the crime to create the evidence.
Oh, absolutely.
They orchestrated this highly illegal, horrific act drugging and assaulting Strawberina specifically to generate the spicy photo.
It was a setup from the very beginning.
That photo wasn't meant to blackmail Strawberina at all. It was meant to be handed over to the corrupt cops on a silver platter.
Here is your proof.
Yeah. They essentially said, here is photographic proof of illicit, severe criminal activity happening inside the Wacky Produce Club. You have your probable cause to raid the club, you have a traumatized victim to process, and in exchange, you let us walk out the back door.
The mechanics of that setup are terrifyingly efficient.
It makes my skin crawl.
They serve Strawberina up to justify the police raid and balance the ledger for their own continued freedom.
She was just a pawn.
It means the trauma inflicted on the victim was purely transactional. She wasn't targeted out of personal animosity. She was targeted because she was a convenient, usable commodity.
Which is somehow even worse than if it was personal.
And this completely reframes the role of the police in this narrative.
Big time.
The authorities are not the solution to the crime. They are active, complicit participants in the criminal enterprise. They accept manufactured trauma as payment.
Which brings us to the absolute core of this deep dive. If we accept that the police are complicit in trading manufactured blackmail for arrests, it completely changes how we view Strawberina's so-called rescue from the club.
The officer who drove her home.
Right. That police officer who drove her home wasn't a guardian. He was an escort.
And that casts a terrifying, paralyzing shadow over what Strawberina finds next.
She's standing in her bedroom trying to process this newspaper article, right? She looks at a hopeful note she wrote to herself the night before about finally being safe at last, with no potatoes or sour tamarind around.
The irony is brutal.
And then she looks down at the floor of her bedroom. Sitting right there on the carpet is a heavy police badge and a police jacket.
Physical evidence?
The source text notes it belonged to the nice, thoughtful officer who drove me home last night. He supposedly accidentally left them there.
But there's a problem with that.
A massive, glaring red flag. Strawberina explicitly states she does not remember him ever coming inside her apartment.
As investigators analyzing a crime scene, the presence of that badge in that specific location is the climax of our tension.
It's the smoking gun.
We have to dissect the semiotics of this physical evidence.
Okay, lay it out for us.
A police badge is universally recognized as the ultimate symbol of authority, institutional law, and civic protection.
Sure, it's supposed to make you feel safe.
It represents the power of the state. But when that exact same symbol is found abandoned on the floor of a victim's locked bedroom, the most intimate, heavily guarded, private sanctuary, a person possesses the meaning of the symbol, inverts completely.
It flips.
It ceases to be a shield and becomes a weapon. It represents systemic corruption invading the one space where she believed she was untouchable.
Man, we have to spend some real time debating the logistics of this clue because the mechanics of how it got there are driving me crazy.
Let's hear it.
I am pushing back forcefully on the idea that this was an accident.
You don't think you just forgot it?
No. You do not accidentally leave a badge and a jacket in a suspect's bedroom.
It is unlikely.
A standard police jacket is bulky, heavy, and a deliberate piece of uniform. A badge is heavy metal, usually pinned securely or clipped to a belt.
That's true.
Taking those items off requires intent. Dropping them on a floor requires a conscious decision.
Let's test that theory by laying out the logistical options, starting with the possibility that her memory is the failure point.
Okay, play devil's advocate.
We established earlier that she was heavily drugged and experiencing acute trauma. Her timeline is fragmented.
True.
It is entirely plausible that when the officer drove her home, she was so severely incapacitated that she could not walk.
So he had to carry her.
He had to physically support her, unlock her door, and walk her into her bedroom.
I could see that happening.
In that scenario, the physical exertion of moving a deadweight victim, combined with the indoor temperature, might have prompted him to remove his outer layers.
He gets hot, takes off the jacket.
He sets them down, she blacks out the entire interaction due to the sedatives, and he forgets them in his haste to leave.
Okay, I see the logic there, but I fundamentally disagree with it.
Why is that?
First of all, a cop doesn't forget his badge. A badge is their identity, their authority, their livelihood. You don't just leave it behind like a misplaced umbrella.
It is a pretty significant item to lose.
But more importantly, the blackout theory ignores the text. She remembers writing a note to herself saying, "safe at last," after she was home. The note She had enough motor function and cognitive awareness to lock her door and write a coherent message.
Which means she was awake when she was alone.
Exactly. That points to option 2, which I believe is the reality that the officer drops her off at the curb, she goes inside, locks the deadbolt, writes her note, and falls asleep.
And then
Sometime during the night, that officer returns.
he breaks in.
He bypasses her locked door. Maybe he lifted her keys during the ride and made a copy, or he simply has the tactical skills to pick the lock.
Law enforcement definitely has those skills.
Right. And he deliberately, quietly enters her bedroom while she is sleeping, specifically to plant those items.
If we operate under the assumption of a deliberate break-in, we have to analyze the motive behind leaving the uniform.
Right. Why leave the jacket?
Why leave something so easily traceable?
Because it's the ultimate mob-style calling card.
Like a warning.
In classic mafia movies, they leave a horse's head in your bed to show they can get to you.
Oh, that's creme.
In the vegetable underworld, corrupt law enforcement leaves their literal badge on your floor.
So it's intimidation.
It is a physical manifestation of a threat. It is them saying, there are no locked doors for us. We do not need a warrant. We can get to you anywhere, anytime, even in your safest, most private space while you are unconscious.
That belong to us.
Exactly.
I counter that it might not even be a conscious calling card in the theatrical mafia sense.
What else could it be?
It might just be pure, unfiltered institutional arrogance.
Arrogance.
When law enforcement becomes entirely corrupt, they stop viewing citizens as people with rights and start viewing them as property.
So they just don't care.
He didn't leave the jacket to send the cinematic message. He left it because he views her apartment as an extension of his own precinct.
Wow.
He feels so incredibly untouchable, so immune to consequences, that leaving a highly identifying piece of government property at the scene of a break-in doesn't even register as a risk.
The arrogance is the message.
Precisely.
Either way, the psychological result for Strawberina is the same complete suffocating paralysis.
It's devastating.
I want you, the listener, to really put yourself in that bedroom, feel the weight of that realization.
Imagine standing there.
You just survived the most horrific night of your life. You made it home, you turned the deadbolt, you wrote a physical note to yourself documenting that you are safe at last.
You think it's over.
You think the nightmare is contained because you confessed to the authorities. You did the right thing.
And then reality sets in.
And then you read the paper and realize the bad guys are the authorities. You look down and the physical heavy metal proof that your sanctuary was violated while you slept is staring up at you from the carpet.
It's a terrifying paradigm shift.
Who do you call for help when the cops are the ones breaking into your house?
The isolation is absolute. You cannot dial 911.
You can't.
You cannot run to the precinct to report a break-in because the person working the desk might be the person who picked your lock.
The guy who drove you home.
She has been entirely cut off from any legitimate avenue of rescue. And the timing of her discovering this badge is a critical piece of the syndicate's operational strategy.
They planned the timing.
The psychological warfare is designed to hit her in waves, preventing her from ever regaining her equilibrium.
Just keeping her off balance.
The physical evidence inside the room proves her sanctuary was compromised in the past, but what happens in the very next moment proves that the threat isn't just historical.
Right.
It is ongoing, and it is active right outside her walls.
Because we move instantly from a physical invasion to a digital intrusion.
The texts.
Just as she is staring at this badge, trying to compute the sheer impossibility of her situation, her phone buzzes.
Other hit.
It's a text message from an unknown number. The text contains a digital copy of the exact same front-page article she is holding, the one about Keisha and the sour pickle being informants.
So someone is watching her read the paper.
But the message attached to the image is what makes the blood run cold.
What does it say?
It says, "The police didn't let you go out of the kindness of their hearts, Strawberina. You're part of the investigation now. Look outside your window."
We have to analyze the precise wording of that text message because it dictates the new rules of engagement.
It's so specific.
The police didn't let you go out of the kindness of their hearts. This explicitly confirms our earlier deduction about the transactional nature of her trauma.
Right, she wasn't released because she was innocent.
Her release from the Wacky Produce Club wasn't an oversight, it wasn't a clerical error, and it certainly wasn't because law enforcement recognized her as a victim.
It was planned.
It was a highly calculated, strategic deployment.
And then they tell her she's part of the investigation.
When the sender states, "You're part of the investigation now," They are forcibly drafting her into their operation.
Against her will.
They're stripping away her agency. She isn't a citizen. She is an asset, a pawn on their chessboard to be moved at their discretion.
She is bait. They let her go so they could use her to draw someone else out or simply to watch her squirm.
And then they tell her to look outside.
The cinematic tension of that final instruction, look outside your window, is devastating.
It's brilliant, horribly brilliant.
It is a classic espionage trope, but it is deployed here with absolute precision because it forces the victim to physically, bodily confront their stalker.
She can't ignore it.
She can't just delete the text and pretend it isn't happening. Her hands are shaking. The source text describes her creeping over to the curtains.
The anticipation there is awful.
She peeks out into the dark, heavy haze of the early morning. And there it is, sitting directly under the street lamp, is a dark, unmarked car.
And it sees her.
As she locks eyes with it, the headlights flash twice.
The tactical decision to flash those headlights is a masterstroke of psychological terror.
Why did they do it? Why not just stay hidden?
Consider the alternative. If the car just sat there in the dark, Strawberry's brain, desperate for comfort, might try to rationalize it.
Oh, she'd talk herself out of it.
When you are traumatized and hypervigilant, you might look out a window, see a parked vehicle, and convince yourself you are projecting your fear.
Like, oh, it's just a neighbor.
You tell yourself it's just a neighbor leaving for an early shift. It's just a random delivery car.
But the headlights ruin that.
But the moment those headlights flash twice, precisely synchronized with the moment she parts the curtains, it removes any possibility of paranoia.
It's real.
It is an undeniable, aggressive acknowledgement.
We see you.
It communicates, yes, we are here. Yes, we are watching your specific window. And yes, we know exactly when you are looking back at us. It validates her terror and cements her containment.
It traps her in amber. It really does. But from our perspective, standing back and looking at the crime board, that flashing car forces us to ask the million-dollar investigative question.
Which is?
Who is sitting behind the wheel of that unmarked car?
The suspect list.
Because we have a few very distinct possibilities, and the occupant of that vehicle changes the entire trajectory of this deep dive. Let's debate the suspect list.
Okay, the most direct, statistically probable candidate, given the sequencing of the text message and the presence of the police badge on her floor, is the corrupt police precinct itself.
You think it's the cops out there?
We know they are running covert operations with informants. An unmarked car is standard issue for plainclothes surveillance.
Sure, they use unmarked cars all the time.
They planted the badge inside to establish psychological dominance, and now they're conducting active, overt surveillance outside to ensure she doesn't attempt to flee the jurisdiction.
They want to keep her boxed in.
They want her paralyzed.
Okay, I agree the cops have the means, but I am pushing back on the method.
Why? It fits perfectly.
Think about the arrogance we just discussed regarding the badge.
Okay.
If the cops view her as property, if they feel completely untouchable, why would they bother with the theatrical espionage-style flashing of the headlights?
You think it's too flashy for them?
That feels too dramatic for a corrupt bureaucracy. They would just park a marked cruiser out front if they wanted to intimidate her.
Who do you think it is then?
I think we have to look at Potato Keisha. We know Keisha has been obsessively tracking her.
She did just call her.
She called her just moments earlier to gloat and gaslight her. Keisha is officially listed as an informant, which means she might have access to an unmarked police vehicle, or at least the protection to park wherever she wants.
That's a fair point.
What if Keisha is sitting out there flashing the lights as the ultimate power trip? I set you up, I got away with it, and now I'm watching you realize I own you.
The psychological profile certainly aligns with Keisha.
Right.
She has demonstrated a pathological need for control over Strawberina. Sitting outside the apartment, taunting her via text, and executing a coordinated light flash fits her established pattern of narcissistic abuse perfectly.
It's totally her style.
However, if we are truly analyzing every angle of this syndicate, there is a third option that completely upends the power dynamic.
A third option.
What if the person in the car is a rival faction within the vegetable underworld?
A rival faction like who?
We know the Sour Pickle and Keisha are working with the cops, but what about Tamarind? Tamarind slipped out the back of the Wacky Produce Club with Keisha, but notably, Tamarind's name was not in the newspaper article listing the new informants.
Whoa, that is a massive discrepancy. Tamarind is off the books.
Exactly. Consider the implication. If Tamarind isn't an informant, but Keisha is, There might be a fracture in the syndicate.
They might be turning on each other.
What if Tamarind is in that car? Or what if it's an entirely new, unintroduced player in the underworld who realizes Strawberryna is the newly minted center of this massive web?
They want to grab her first.
They want to secure her before the corrupt cops or Keisha can utilize her. The text message says, "You're part of the investigation now." It doesn't explicitly say whose investigation.
That is the ultimate wild card. The paranoia is infectious. Who is really setting up who?
It's a house of mirrors.
It perfectly encapsulates the dizzying, nauseating journey we've just mapped out. Because, let's take a breath and recap how violently fast this narrative escalated.
It escalated incredibly quickly.
We started this deep dive looking at what initially appeared to be a terrible but relatively straightforward drug-fueled betrayal by fake friends at a VIP party.
Just a disastrous night out.
Right. But by rigorously pulling on the threads, by dissecting the trauma timeline and the physical evidence, we uncovered a massive, systemic, institutional conspiracy.
It goes so much deeper than just a bad party.
We found confidential informants maneuvering through the shadows, we found corrupt police trading freedom for manufactured blackmail photos, and we analyzed the most chilling piece of physical evidence imaginable.
The badge.
A heavy police badge deliberately planted in a locked bedroom to signal absolute, inescapable vulnerability.
It is a profound, terrifying shift in the narrative landscape. And I think the vital takeaway here, the core insight that resonates far beyond the specific mechanics of this vegetal underworld, is about the true nature of power, corruption, and protection.
What's the main takeaway for you?
The world of information, of criminal investigation, and of institutional authority, the most dangerous moments do not occur when you are facing a known, declared enemy in a dark alley.
Because you can see them coming.
You can brace for an enemy. The truly catastrophic moments occur when you realize that the very people who are structurally mandated to protect you, the institutions you rely on for safety, are actually the ones digging the pitfalls and setting the traps.
Man.
When the shield itself becomes a weapon of coercion, the victim is left in a void with literally nowhere to turn.
So what does this all mean for the reality of the Wacky Produce Club? Where does this leave our fractured protagonist, and where does it leave us as the investigators staring at the evidence board?
We have mapped the crime scene. We've identified the mechanics of the corruption.
But as we step back, we are left with a massive, gaping hole in the fundamental motive of this entire operation.
The motive is the missing piece.
And this is the provocative puzzle I want to leave you, the listener, to mull over and explore as we wrap up this deep dive. Look closely at the board we've built.
The police already have what they need.
Exactly. The corrupt police already have Potato Keisha acting as a compliant informant. They already have the hardened veteran, the sour pickle, under their thumb.
They already possess the illicit blackmail photos from the raid to use as leverage.
They have every single piece they need to run their shadow operations and control the streets. So, if they have all the power and all the players, why do they need Strawberryna?
That is the structural flaw in their operation.
It doesn't make sense.
They let her go, yet they are expending significant operational resources to heavily surveil her, to break into her apartment, and to psychologically torture her via text message.
It's a lot of effort for nothing.
You do not expend that kind of capital on a discarded decoy. They need her for something specific.
They are terrified of her, or they are reliant on her. What does a seemingly innocent, naive Strawberry possess that this heavily armed, deeply corrupt precinct of the grocery aisle so desperately wants to control?
Is it something she saw?
Is there something she saw at the club that her traumatized drug brain hasn't remembered yet? Is there a piece of evidence hidden inside her apartment that she doesn't even know she possesses?
She might be holding the key to the whole thing.
Keep questioning the narrative. Keep turning the evidence over in your mind. Because if there is one thing this deep dive into the Wacky Produce raid has taught us, it's that in a mystery this layered and this corrupt, the most obvious suspect is rarely the whole story.
The truth is usually hiding right in plain sight.
Often it's resting quietly, heavily, right on your own bedroom floor.